Just a few weeks down the line, the euphoria is fast dying down. The yellow fever is fast turning into despair. Zimbabweans, being the creative lot that they are, have turned CCC into Chapera Chinhu Chamisa, while others are emphatic that Chafa Chinhu Chaniro. This was bound to happen. This was always coming. Youc. It's clear that this new creature was created without deep thinking and without foresight. This was a populist creation that was bound to excite gullible opposition supporters and their shallow-minded sympathizers who think their misdirected venom on social media is enough to smuggle Nelson into power. Now, a few weeks down the line, the opposition lackeys are discovering that in reality nothing has really changed. Nelson, on the advice of new Iron Lady Mahalel, has just added a new abbreviation and a new color to his political toys. It's like changing the color of a broken bus from red to yellow and then give this yellow bus a new name in the hope that the broken engine will suddenly start functioning well. Honestly, Nelson should not take people for fools like that. The broken bus remains broken because the engine hasn't been fixed. What is worse is that the poor driver, who broke the engine of the bus in the first instance, is still on the wheel. Nelson's CCC remains the old MDC, dressed in yellow instead of the usual red that Morgan Tsvangirai preferred. Nothing has changed, no ideology, no direction, no policies, and no shame. As if that is not enough, Nelson remains big-headed, too pompous and dangerously clueless. The little dictator in him hasn't died. The only new thing is that this little dictator is now being messed up by the temperamental Mahalel, who has created serious discomfort in little Nelson's shaky marriage. This is a story for another good day. And that good day is coming soon. Commenting on the trick by Nelson, others are saying, it's old wine in a new bottle. Nelson trying to play a fast one by presenting the old and fractious MDC as a new creation under the name CCC. His trick almost worked because quite a number of his blind supporters went hysterical. Just like snow on a sunny day, the euphoria is fast dying. Time has a way of defining issues and putting things into proper perspective. French romantic composer Hector Berlioz would say, "Time is a great teacher, but unfortunately it kills all its pupils." Time is now teaching Nelson a lesson that lies have short legs, and once his gullible supporters come back to their sober senses, they will continue to make his life very difficult, as they have done since he imposed himself on the party after the death of Tsvangirai. He should have known that lies can't run a marathon, but I think we are expecting too much from this little boy. He is too naive, and this explains why he foolishly thinks that age can replace ideology in politics. He thinks people should vote for him just because of his age. In case Nelson is getting mixed up just because of his age, a gentle reminder would be useful here. The road that we have traveled as Zimbabweans is indeed a road less traveled. For us to attain political independence, there was need for total commitment and absolute dedication from the people of Zimbabwe. The gallant sons and daughters who fought for this country didn't stand akimbo just because they were in their 20s and 30s, hoping that independence will be delivered to them on a silver platter. Young as they were, they knew that they had to saturate themselves with the ZAPU and ZANU ideology to win the war. Nelson may be too naive to know this, but Ian Smith agreed to sit down during the Lancaster House Conference after discovering that these young freedom fighters were prepared to die for their country. To these freedom fighters, age didn't matter. They didn't think that just because they were young, they could take over the country just like that. After gaining political independence in 1980, several youthful businesspeople like Philip Chiyangwa, Peter Pamire, Jane Mutasa, Abigail Mgwenzi and many others who were in their 30s and 40s in the 1990s took over the baton fighting for the economic emancipation of black people in Zimbabwe. All of them never took things for granted just because they were young. They continued working with the Revolutionary Party, ZANU-PF, anchoring all their actions on the party's sound ideology. Nelson and many others in the opposition got the rare opportunity to come up close with ZANU-PF during the inclusive government, and we thought this was the beginning for them to learn about leadership, patriotism, sovereignty and governance, among many other important aspects of nation building. Sadly, the MDCs and the Chamisas of this world reminded us that wearing a crown does not make one a king, or that even if you dress a pig in Gucci, it remains a pig. A few weeks ago, Nelson announced a birth of his supposedly new political baby, but in doing so, he showed everyone that he is still that shallow Chamisa we have always known him to be. He is still buried in self-illusion. But maybe we should try and understand Nelson and his party. As Knight Campbell Fatoki would put it, you can't skip any stage of your life, it's all part of the molding process into a better you. Clearly, as the Americans and the British rushed to form the MDC in 1999 as they tried in vain to stop the historic land reform exercise, they failed to realize the importance of dishing out a well-thought and well-cooked opposition. In Shona we would say, Stanjurai akapiwa mbadza, Chamisandakabuta mbadza yoyo. How else can anyone explain how the MDC has torn itself into several factions and has now morphed into CCC? The MDC, and by extension CCC, are like GMOs, they lack originality and maturity. As we all know, one cannot invent maturity, only time can deliver it. When you are a creation of the Americans and the British, hurriedly put together to destroy your own, and when you are someone with no sense of identity, no sense of belonging and no ideology, it's not surprising that you think politics is that simple and cheap. Nelson skipped quite a number of stages in his political life, and now he is exposing himself. Almost 42 years after the attainment of independence, it's clearly showing that ZANU-PF Ichin Basa Guru to free some of its people mentally. Nelson and many of his peers are still oppressed by the residues of colonialism. Oppression, my dear comrades, destroys one's self-worth and sense of self. It dismantles one's concept of self-value and presents the former colonizers as the supreme power that must continue to rule over us. Little Nelson and his hangers-on have not yet come to terms with our hard-won political independence and the subsequent programs to economically emancipate the black majority. They think that only our former colonizers should own the means of production like they did before independence in 1980. They think as blacks, we can only be successful workers of these former colonizers. What a sickening slave mentality. A glorified form of slavery, but fortunately ZANU-PF is still around to free the likes of Nelson. Dr. Miles Monroe stated in one of his inspirational speeches that mental freedom is more important than physical freedom. If only Nelson and his peers knew, I am sure they would pursue mental freedom instead of wasting time pretending to be political leaders. What is surprising and even more worrying is that little Nelson's party is full of lawyers masquerading as human rights activists. How I wish they understood what Dr. Monroe meant when he said, "The enemy of true freedom is slave mentality, and freedom without law is anarchy." There is no freedom without law. Anyway, back to the MDC that has been painted yellow in vain efforts to start a new creation called CCC. The yellow paint is already fading, and the party is fast wilting, yet 2023 is still many months away. Even if one wants to be optimistic and assume that this creature lasts one day longer than its teething problems, the supporters of this creature have to brace themselves for the adolescence period, that is if their party miraculously reaches that stage of political development and survive it. Knowing Nelson, he will not allow this yellow fever to go beyond adolescence, because once his hormones start acting up, when the voice breaks, when the beard starts growing, Nelson will do what he knows best. He will start lying and hallucinating that he has spoken to the likes of US President Joe Biden, that he has spoken to Rwandan President Paul Kagame and so on. You all remember these hallucinations from little Nelson, don't you? He will try to magnify himself, while his easily excitable hangers-on will continue massaging his oversized ego. It's clear, this MDC dressed in yellow robes is doomed. And by the way, the lies have already started. If you listen carefully during the launch of this supposedly new baby, Nelson promised that his party would field new candidates in the forthcoming by-elections, but we still have the likes of Merwissy's Visvai, old and tired opposition opportunists who have represented the MDC over the past 20 years. So what exactly is new about this creature? Just a new name and a new color. They just changed the packaging, and they want us to believe that they now have a new political party. Nelson should know that he can fool some people, but he can't fool all of us. And did you notice that women in this new creation have been relegated to the periphery, save for the new Iron Lady Mahalel? One would have thought that Mahalel would fight to have more women in positions of authority, but no, she must be the only yellow flower at the top to shine. We all know that Mahalel is not stable where it matters most, and this won't end well for Nelson. We thought Nelson had learned a few lessons from Stangerai and what befell him. Albert Einstein once said, "Only two things are finite: the universe and human stupidity," and I am not sure about the former. Maybe it's beyond little Nelson to comprehend such simple statements. He is so used to this diet of cheap populism and an overdose of self-importance. That is why up to this day he still doesn't know why ZANU-PF really wanted these by-elections before the general election set for next year. The lack of critical thinking and foresight is mind-boggling. And they want us to take them serious? Tibruepo. ZANU-PF being ZANU-PF has been silently watching Nelson playing the game right into its own hands. There is absolutely no need to panic, even if Nelson gets overexcited with self-serving praises on social media. In her 1976 book titled A Course in Miracles, Helen Schucman put it very well when she said, "Those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait, and wait without any anxiety." While they stampede on social media and while they go bonkers with the yellow fever, the Revolutionary Party is waiting for 2023 without any anxiety. With such an opposition, the outcome is certain.